Why arguing with fools destroys your power. Most people are trained to believe one dangerous lie, that being intelligent, having the best facts, and using perfect logic should automatically win you arguments, promotions, and respect in any room. You were taught that truth speaks for itself, that if you are right, the world will eventually bow to your reasoning. In the real world, that belief silently destroys your power, because the moment you start trying to prove you're right to foolish, loud, or emotionally unstable people, you walk straight into a trap where the goal is not truth. The goal is attention, drama, and ego. Think about it. Have you ever walked away from a conversation asking yourself, how did that idiot win? You see, ego is what pulls intelligent people down into the mud. You hear something stupid in a meeting, in a group chat, or online, and your brain screams, correct them. You feel that surge in your chest. You feel your pulse rise. The moment you answer that call, you're no longer in control of the conversation. You've allowed a foolish person to dictate where your attention and energy go. You bring facts. They bring louder opinions. You stay calm. They get emotional. You quote evidence. They quote feelings. The more logical you become, the more unhinged they become, because their goal is not accuracy. It is impact. They want the room, not the truth. And in chaotic rooms, volume beats logic every time. This is why arguing with fools is one of the fastest ways to lose power. You look angry, they look entertained. You look invested, they look relaxed. You walk away replaying every sentence, rehearsing better comebacks in the shower, while they walk away feeling victorious simply because they pulled you out of your frame. Their reward is your reaction. On the surface, it feels like you're fighting for truth. Underneath, you're feeding their ego, their narrative, and their audience. The more you try to win with logic, the more you validate their importance. You turn them from a clown into a worthy opponent. You hand them status they never earned. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago. That's why his work was banned, demonized, and labeled dangerous. He saw that real power does not argue with stupidity. It exploits it. The real sign of intelligence is not winning every argument. It is knowing which conversations are beneath you. In this video, you're going to learn how to stop bleeding energy into pointless debates and start using Machiavellian strategy to stay above them. Now let's begin with the first ruthless shift, refusing to fight on their battlefield and learning to win without ever stepping into the mud. The hidden pain of losing to stupid people. Refusing to fight on their battlefield sounds powerful in theory, but you only feel the need for that strategy after you've been humiliated on it. So let's talk about the pain nobody admits. Losing to people you secretly know are less intelligent than you. Have you ever watched someone dumber, lazier, or less qualified than you win the promotion? Have you seen them dominate the conversation, impress the boss, or walk away looking like the hero while you get labeled negative, difficult, or too intense? Think about it. You do the work, they do the performance, and somehow the performance wins. Picture the meeting. You bring data, receipts, and calm reasoning. You've checked the numbers twice. Your logic is clean. You speak clearly, you stay measured, you focus on truth and consequences. They walk in late with louder opinions, dramatic stories, and a confident smile. No evidence, no structure. But they throw out emotional buzzwords and watch the room nod along. You say, here is what the numbers show. They say, let me tell you how our customers feel. You talk about risk, cost, and long-term impact. They talk about vibes, momentum, and not being afraid. You stay grounded. They pace the room, raise their voice, use their hands, and lock eyes with every decision maker. The conversation stops being about the idea and starts being about their energy. At first, it feels like a real argument. Point, counterpoint, evidence, response. Then you feel the ground shift. You notice people are no longer evaluating the logic. They're watching the show. Volume starts to matter more than validity. Tone starts to matter more than truth. The more precise you get, the more rigid you look. The more emotional they get, the more passionate they seem. This is why you leave those rooms exhausted. The debate slides from logic into emotion, then from emotion into dominance. It becomes a contest of ego, posture, and performance. Who interrupts without flinching? Who laughs first? Who looks unbothered when challenged? The moment you raise your voice to match them, you lose your advantage. You look triggered. They look powerful. You see, at that point, nobody is tracking reality. They are tracking faces. Who looks embarrassed? Who looks unshakable? Who looks like they are trying too hard to prove a point? Intelligent people often fall into this trap because they care about the argument. Foolish people care about the audience, and audiences reward confidence over correctness. So you walk away asking, how did that idiot win? And a darker question follows. Is my intelligence actually a weakness in a world like this? Your attention starts turning against you. You replay the conversation. You rewrite your answers. You drain your energy on a battle that is already over. The real sign of intelligence is noticing what actually happened in that room. You did not lose on truth. You lost on theater. And Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He knew that power belongs to the person who controls perception, not the person who worships facts. In a moment, you're going to see exactly how ruthless people weaponize that dynamic against you and how to flip it without becoming them. The critical mistake smart people keep repeating. That brings us to the critical mistake intelligent people keep repeating. They walk into every argument, assuming that everyone else cares about truth as much as they do. They assume the game is fair, rational, and played with the same rules. It is not. And this is why you keep losing power to people who are nowhere near as sharp as you. You see, you walk into a discussion believing it is a chess match of ideas. You line up facts. You plan sequences, you calculate the most accurate move, but the person across from you is not playing chess at all. They are in a professional wrestling ring. Loud moves, fake outrage, dramatic pauses. Their goal is not to outthink you. Their goal is to make the crowd cheer. Think about it. You bring evidence, they bring volume. You stay calm, they perform outrage. You answer questions, they ignore your answers and repeat the same line, because repetition, not accuracy, wins the audience. The conversation feels insane because you are following logic while they are following spectacle. This is the critical mistake, assuming you are in a search for truth when the other person is in a contest for dominance. You are trying to clarify. They are trying to protect their ego. You want mutual understanding. They want to avoid embarrassment at all costs, even if they must lie, twist, or attack you personally. The moment you accept their frame, you have already lost control. Most people never see this. They keep explaining. They keep refining their argument. They keep handing over their attention and emotional energy to someone who is not even capable of being persuaded. The other person is not listening. They are surviving. They are signaling to anyone watching, "Look, I am not weak. I did not back down." Meanwhile, the real audience is silent. The co-workers in the meeting, the friends in the group chat, the followers reading the comments. They are quietly judging, not who is right, but who looks in control. They notice who gets triggered and who stays composed. They notice who chases the foolish argument and who conserves their energy. This is why these arguments feel so exhausting. You walk away drained, replaying every sentence, wondering which fact you should have added, while the other person walks away satisfied simply because they did not look small. You lost time, you lost focus, you lost emotional bandwidth that could have been invested in people who were actually open. The real sign of intelligence is not arguing better inside a rigged game. It is recognizing the game and refusing to play by the script written for fools. Machiavelli understood this long before social media. In the next part, you will see how he changed the battlefield entirely, so that even when others shouted, he still controlled what everyone believed had happened. Machiavelli, the man powerful people read in secret. Machiavelli understood this long before social media, and the world punished him for it. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote about power with such brutal clarity that the Catholic Church did something dramatic. They didn't argue with him, they banned him. His book, The Prince, was placed on the index of prohibited books for nearly 300 years. Think about it. A manual so honest about manipulation, fear, and control that the most powerful institution in Europe had to label it dangerous to the human soul. When power feels threatened, it doesn't debate, it censors. You live in a culture that tells you to be kind, be authentic, speak your truth. That sounds beautiful. But behind closed doors, politicians, CEOs, campaign managers, and high-level strategists are reading Machiavelli. They study not what people should do in a perfect world, but what people actually do when status, survival, and ego are on the line. This is why you can lose an argument to someone who is obviously foolish, then watch them walk away with the promotion, the relationship, or the public support. You brought logic, they brought strategy. You tried to be right, they tried to control perception. In the real game of power, those are not equal moves. For Machiavelli, power is not about proving you are correct. Power is about directing energy. It is about deciding where attention flows in a room, an organization, or a country. You see, the person who frames the conversation silently decides what counts as truth inside that frame. The loudest voice does not always win. The architect of the frame does. Machiavelli's genius was his strategic distance. He steps back. He watches how people betray their intentions with tiny signals, a nervous laugh, a desperate need to be liked, an ego that cannot handle silence. He calculates incentives, not emotions. Then he quietly shifts the battlefield so that his side wins before the fight even looks like it started. Imagine a meeting. You argue passionately. Someone else stays calm, asks a few questions, summarizes the discussion, and suggests a reasonable next step. Whose version gets written into the minutes? Not the one who felt the most, but the one who controlled the frame. The moment you see this, you stop worshipping logic and start respecting leverage. Here is the uncomfortable part. The strategies you are about to see are the same patterns used in propaganda, PR, and reputation management. If you bragged about using them online, you would be branded toxic, manipulative, even evil. Yet they already shape the news you read, the leaders you follow, and the arguments you lose without understanding why. In this video, you're going to learn 7 of Machiavelli's most ruthless power strategies, not to become a cartoon villain, but to stop being the naive player in a rigged conversation. In the next section, we begin with the first, how intelligent people weaponize perception, appearing virtuous while quietly acting in their own interest. Fools want fights, the powerful want attention. Ruthless strategy number 1 begins with a brutal correction to how most people see conflict. Most people think power is proven by fighting, by clapping back, by showing you are not afraid to argue. In the real world, that is one of the fastest ways to lose your power in front of the people who actually matter. Foolish people are addicted to reactions. They do not want truth. They want your raised voice, your offended face, your long paragraphs in the group chat. They feed on visible emotional investment. The moment you start typing essays or explaining yourself 3 different ways, they feel powerful, not because they won the argument with logic, but because they hijacked your attention and energy. Think about it. Have you ever watched 2 co-workers arguing in a meeting, both red in the face, both convinced they are destroying the other with superior reasoning? Everyone at the table sees the same thing. 2 people who cannot control themselves. 2 egos begging for validation. Intelligent observers are no longer listening to the content of the conversation. They are measuring who has lost control. You see, powerful people track something completely different during conflict. They are not obsessed with who scored the last verbal point. They are silently scanning the room. Who stopped talking? Who leaned in? Who checked out? Where did the attention flow when the argument exploded? To Machiavelli, this is the real battlefield, not the words being traded, but the audience silently deciding who looks competent and who looks foolish. This is why fools end up socially isolated even when they win. They might dominate the argument by being the loudest voice in the room, but in the process they broadcast something fatal: volatility, neediness, a total lack of inner control. Every powerful observer quietly labels them the same way: unstable, high maintenance, not to be trusted with real responsibility, sensitive information, or serious power. Picture the status map in any office, family, or online community. At the center of the drama, you have the loud combatants, throwing around accusations, defending ego, chasing victory. At the edges, you have the quiet, high-status observers. They speak less, but when they do, people listen. While the fools perform, these observers are taking mental notes on who just disqualified themselves from future opportunities. The real sign of intelligence is understanding that every public argument is an audition. You are not performing for the person attacking you. You are performing for the invisible audience whose respect you actually need. Every time you argue with a fool in public, you volunteer for the role of low-status emotional reactor. You prove you can be provoked on command. Now let's begin to twist this in your favor. What happens when you refuse to fight, but still control how you are seen? How do you appear virtuous while acting in your own interest so that attention flows to you without chaos? In the next section, you will see exactly how Machiavelli turned perception itself into a weapon. The 7 banned strategies you were never supposed to see. Machiavelli understood something brutal about human nature. The people who look the most virtuous in public are often the most ruthless in private. The real game has never been about who is nicest. It has always been about who understands power. In this video, you're going to learn 7 Machiavellian power strategies that are so manipulative, so effective, that if you bragged about using them on social media, you would be labeled toxic, cancelled, and probably blocked from half your contacts. Yet these same patterns are quietly used by executives, political operatives, and professional influencers every single day. Think about it. Who is this really for? It is not for people who enjoy endless arguments in the comments. It is for intelligent people who are sick of losing promotions, relationships, and public debates to louder, dumber, more manipulative personalities. You bring logic, they bring volume. You bring truth, they bring performance. You stay calm, they weaponize ego and drama. This is why you keep walking away from conversations wondering, how did that foolish person win? You see, these 7 strategies are not about turning you into a cartoon villain. They are about defending your time, your attention, and your status without screaming matches, without emotional breakdowns, and without explaining yourself to people who are not listening. The real sign of intelligence is not that you can destroy someone in an argument. It is that you can avoid the argument, keep control of the situation, and still get what you want. So, here is the roadmap. First, weaponizing perception, appearing calm, fair, and even generous while acting in your own interest beneath the surface, so that attention flows to you and away from chaos. Second, controlling information, learning how to feed people selected truths and strategic silence, so their choices naturally benefit you without open confrontation. Third, dividing and ruling, letting fragile egos clash with each other so no single group can unite against you. The moment you stop trying to be liked by everyone, you gain room to maneuver. Fourth, Calculated cruelty, striking once, cleanly and decisively, instead of being endlessly nice, while your boundaries are violated for years. Fifth, using enemies better than friends, understanding that a visible rival can raise your status, clarify your position, and absorb attacks that would otherwise hit you. Sixth, never relying on gratitude, building systems of dependence and mutual benefit instead of hoping people will remember favors. And finally, the seventh strategy, outsmarting the foolish by manipulating their pride, ego, and stupidity without direct argument. No debates, no emotional theater. You set the frame, they walk into it. The intent behind all of this is simple: not to humiliate, not to become a tyrant, but to quietly stop bleeding power to fools, protect your position, and direct your energy where it actually pays off. In the next section, we will start with the first weapon, how to look virtuous while acting with cold precision, so that perception does your work for you. The real sign of intelligence, it's not what you think. The real sign of intelligence is not what you were taught it is. Most people still believe intelligence is about rapid answers, sharp comebacks, and destroying people in an argument. In school, in comment sections, in meetings, the person who talks fastest and sounds most confident gets treated as the smartest. In the real world, that is one of the fastest ways to lose your power. You burn through your attention, your energy, your emotional control, just to prove a point to people who are not even listening. Think about it. How many conversations have you left feeling drained, replaying what you should have said, while the foolish person you debated walked away feeling victorious because they were louder? This is why we need a new maxim, one Machiavelli would recognize instantly. The real sign of intelligence is not how many arguments you win. The real sign of intelligence is how precisely you know which arguments are not worth entering in the first place. Power is not about proving that you are right. Power is about deciding where your energy goes. You see, the smartest person in the room rarely behaves like the smartest person in the room. They do not rush to speak. They do not jump into every conversation. They watch. They let other people reveal their ego, their insecurity, their lack of logic. While everyone else is fighting for attention, they are quietly gathering information and calculating leverage. You bring facts. They bring louder opinions. You stay calm. They twist your words. You try to protect the truth. They try to protect their image. The moment you chase them into that emotional theater, you hand them control of the frame. The truly intelligent person refuses that invitation. They let the foolish overtalk, contradict themselves, and expose their own weakness while they remain still. So who are you going to be? The overeager debater who must respond to every comment, every accusation, every disrespectful tone, or the calm strategist who chooses battles with surgical precision, who knows that silence can be more lethal than any speech? In this video, you are going to learn how to shift your identity from smart but drained to quietly dangerous. Pattern interrupt. Imagine walking into a room where everyone underestimates you. They think you are passive. They think you are harmless. They argue, they posture, they perform. Then, at the exact moment that matters, you speak once, move once, decide once, and everything rearranges around you. That is not an accident. That is design. Machiavelli wrote for exactly this type of person. Not the loud moralist, but the cold strategist who appears harmless while operating with precision. Mastering his 7 ruthless strategies is how you stop bleeding energy in pointless battles and start playing a different game entirely. In the next section, we begin with the first upgrade, how to weaponize perception so you can look virtuous while acting in your own interest, and let appearances fight your arguments for you. Lock it in. Silence is power. And that first upgrade begins with something most people underestimate completely. Silence. Not passive silence. Weaponized silence. The kind that looks weak to foolish people, but quietly puts you in control of the entire conversation. Before we go any further, do this with me. Pause for 3 seconds. Open the comments. Type this out word for word. Silence is power. I don't argue with fools, not a shorter version, not a paraphrase. Write the full sentence. Think about it. You are not commenting for the algorithm. You are programming your own behavior for the next time someone tries to drag you into a pointless argument. You see, when you type those words, you are making a micro-commitment. Your brain treats written statements as instructions. The moment you put "silence is power, I don't argue with fools" into writing, you are telling your future self what to do when ego, anger, and pressure start rising. When that coworker lies about you in a meeting. When a relative twists your words in front of everyone. When some stranger online attacks your character instead of your logic. In those moments, your nervous system wants to react, to defend, to prove you are intelligent. But power is not about noise. Power is about control. Control of your reactions. Control of your attention, control of your time. The real sign of intelligence is not that you can win every argument, but that you can look at a foolish provocation and silently decide, this is not worth my energy. Most people leak power because they cannot tolerate being misunderstood for even 10 seconds. They rush to explain, clarify, justify. They talk and talk until they hand their enemy the exact emotional reaction that was being hunted from the beginning. This is why Machiavelli was feared. He understood that the person who speaks least often controls the narrative most. While others exploded, he observed. While others defended themselves, he took notes on their weaknesses. In this video, you are going to learn how to do the same. Your silence forces other people to fill the space. They over-explain. They contradict themselves. They reveal their motives. You stay calm, present, and unreadable. Who has the power in that situation? The one shouting or the one who doesn't need to? So lock it in right now. Go to the comments and write it. Silence is power. I don't argue with fools. That single act separates you from the crowd that reacts to everything. Because in the next section, when we start with Machiavelli's first ruthless strategy, weaponizing perception, you will see exactly how he used appearances to speak for him so he could remain quiet while everyone else exposed their own weaknesses. From theory to tactics, enter strategy 1. Now let's begin with the first Machiavellian strategy that intelligent people use when dealing with foolish individuals. Up to this point, you've been building the mindset, protect your energy, refuse pointless arguments, control the battlefield. Now we move from theory into tactics. From abstract principles into rules you can use in offices, group chats, and family dinners without losing your power. In this video, you are going to learn 7 ruthless strategies, but each one will follow the same structure. You will get a clear definition. You will see the psychological mechanism underneath it. You will understand the failure pattern that traps most people, and you will learn the signals that tell you, use this now. Think about it. This is not philosophy for a classroom. This is a field manual for real conversations with real ego-driven people. Strategy number 1 is the foundation. Weaponize perception. Machiavelli understood something that still makes people uncomfortable today. Power does not belong to the person who has the best logic. Power belongs to the person who controls how things look. You see, the crowd rarely sees the full truth. They see appearances, they see confidence, posture, and headlines, then they fill in the gaps. So what does weaponizing perception actually mean? It means you appear virtuous while acting in your own interest. You present yourself as calm, reasonable, and fair, even when you are making cold, strategic moves behind the scenes. You let your image do the arguing for you, so you never have to wrestle with a foolish person head-on. You win the audience, not the argument. Look at modern PR teams. A company lays off thousands of people, but the press release talks about strategic restructuring and caring for long-term stability. A politician leaks a damaging story about a rival, then goes on camera and talks about unity and respect. The real sign of intelligence is this: their public words protect their image while their private actions protect their interests. This is why nice corporate leaders can be ruthless and still be admired. You see the smiling town hall meeting, the charity partnership, the inspirational email. You don't see the late-night calls, the backroom deals, the calculated decisions that sacrifice individuals to protect the brand. They never argue with critics directly. They let perception make critics look extreme, emotional, or uninformed. The moment you understand this, you stop trying to defeat foolish people with pure logic. You start asking a different question. How does this look to everyone watching? Because every heated conversation at work, every group chat drama, every tense family debate has an invisible audience. They remember how you appeared more than what you proved. In the next part, you will see exactly how to build this protective image step by step, and how to use it so that even your enemies end up defending you without realizing it. Strategy number 1, weaponize perception, not arguments. So here is Machiavelli's first unforgivable rule of power. Never fight to be right. Fight to look unshakably reasonable. You don't win by crushing an argument. You win by controlling how you are seen while the other person burns their own reputation in public. This is why the strategy is simple to say and difficult to live. Appear virtuous, act in self-interest. Outwardly, you are calm, fair, principled. Behind the scenes, you move with zero hesitation to protect your position, your time, your advantage. Think about it. How many people in your life won the debate but lost the room because everyone walked away thinking they're exhausting? Machiavelli told rulers to appear all mercy, all faith, all honesty, while being ready to act ruthlessly the second their power was threatened. To the public, the prince looked compassionate and trustworthy. In private, he made cold decisions that secured his survival. You see, he understood that most people never see the blade. They only remember the smile that came before it. Intelligent people often fall into the opposite pattern. You bring facts, they bring louder opinions. You explain the truth step by step. They interrupt, accuse, dramatize. You think the strength of your logic will impress everyone watching. Instead, you start to look rigid, aggressive, even obsessive, because the bystanders are not tracking the details of the conversation. They are tracking your energy. Here is the uncomfortable psychological mechanism. Most people cannot evaluate complex arguments, but they instantly judge tone, composure, and apparent fairness. Their brain asks, who seems calm? Who seems emotional? Who looks like they're listening? Loyalty follows that perception, not the hidden truth. The real sign of intelligence is understanding that court of public opinion is primitive, fast, and visual. So the power move is not to dominate the argument. The power move is to manage the theater. Let the foolish person look emotional, petty, even unhinged. You stay composed. You lower your voice. You keep your words generous and precise. You say things like, I understand your concern, and you might be right about some of that, while internally you have already decided exactly what you are going to do. The moment you stop chasing victory in the argument and start protecting your image, the whole game flips. They raise their volume, you raise your calm. They attack your ego, you stay on principles and outcomes. Over time, people conclude, one of them is always angry, the other always sounds reasonable. Guess which one they trust when decisions are made. Now let's begin to sharpen this even further. In the next strategy, you will see how Machiavellian players don't only weaponize perception, they control the information itself, feeding people carefully chosen illusions so that even when you say almost nothing, their choices still lead exactly where you want. The discipline of looking virtuous while playing hard. But here is where most people fail Machiavelli's first strategy. Weaponizing perception is not a trick you pull out once in a crisis. It is a discipline. It is the ability to move in your own interest while looking fair, patient, and even self-critical every single time the spotlight hits you. That sounds simple. It is not, because when you are under attack, your nervous system does not care about strategy. It wants revenge. You want to correct the record, crush the argument, and expose how foolish the other person is. The moment you do that in public, you lose the frame. You look defensive, reactive, and secretly guilty, even when the facts are on your side. Think about it. Have you ever watched two people clash, knowing one of them was technically right, but you still felt yourself trusting the calmer one? One person is red in the face, listing evidence, reciting dates and details. The other speaks slowly, concedes small points, and never raises their voice. You see, the crowd does not track the data. They track emotional temperature. Most intelligent people have a dangerous assumption. They believe that if they simply lay out the truth clearly enough, reasonable observers will wake up, see the logic, and side with them. It is a comforting fantasy. It lets you believe the world is a courtroom where evidence decides everything. But public life is not a courtroom. It is theater. This is why your beautiful explanations backfire. Observers are not replaying the conversation later with a notebook. They are asking, often unconsciously, who looks in control, who looks calm versus who looks triggered, who can take a hit with a small smile, and who spirals into a rant. Power gravitates to the one who appears least disturbed. So what does mastery of this discipline look like in real behavior? First, you acknowledge valid points calmly, even when they come from someone you secretly despise. "You are right about that detail" is a powerful sentence. It disarms. It steals the aggressive energy from the other side and makes you look anchored in truth rather than ego. Second, you thank critics for their perspective, not with sarcasm, with composure. You do not rush. You do not talk over. You do not roll your eyes. Your timing slows down when their energy speeds up. Outwardly, it looks like humility. Internally, you are already repositioning resources, allies, and decisions to protect your interests. Here is the pattern interrupt. The real sign of intelligence is not how fast you clap back. It is how quietly you rewire the situation after the attack. While they celebrate a win in the argument, you are moving a meeting, changing a budget, or closing a door they did not even know they needed. Now let's begin to connect this to Machiavelli's second move. Once you can look virtuous under fire, the next level is more ruthless. You stop reacting to information and start controlling it, deciding what people even get to see before they form an opinion. Signals you're feeding their performance, not your power. Once you start controlling what people see, you must also control what you feed. There is a brutal line you have to recognize fast. The person in front of you is not listening, they are performing. The moment that happens, every extra word you give them is not communication. It is material. It is fuel for their show. You bring logic, they bring theater. You answer the question, they change the question. Watch the behavior. They interrupt constantly. They talk over the end of your sentences. They ignore direct answers as if you never spoke. You see, they are not in a conversation. They are on a stage, and you have been cast as the defensive, over-explaining character who exists to make them look powerful. Think about it. How many times have you tried to clarify your intent only to hear your own words thrown back at you in exaggerated form. They twist your intent. They repeat one phrase you used but strip it from context. They raise the emotional temperature every minute. You stay calm. They get louder. You give one careful explanation. They respond with 3 accusations. This is why the interaction feels less like an argument and more like a performance for an invisible audience. Here is the Machiavellian diagnosis. Once they stop engaging your reasoning and start escalating the drama, your logic has become a prop. Every logical response you offer becomes a piece of set design. They cherry-pick your phrases, highlight the most awkward wording, and ignore the substance. They mock your nuance because nuance does not serve their ego. They turn your careful reasoning into a meme, a punchline, a story they will retell later. Look how upset they got when I challenged them. Notice the internal signal as well. Your heart rate goes up. Your breathing changes. Your sentences get longer and more detailed. You feel a burning need to set the record straight, to correct every twist, to win back the truth. That is the trap. The real sign of intelligence is not how perfectly you explain yourself under attack. It is how quickly you recognize that you have stepped onto their stage and walk off before the second act. Ask yourself in that moment, who has control of the frame? Who is choosing the topic, the tone, the pace? If you are reacting, defending, clarifying while they are provoking, interrupting, and performing, your attention is working for them. Your energy is their content. You're feeding their performance instead of protecting your power. In this video, you're going to learn how the most Machiavellian players prevent this entire circus before it starts. They control information so ruthlessly that fools never get enough ammunition to begin the show. The next strategy reveals how they do it and why the strongest move is often what you never say at all. Strategy number 2, control information, starve their narrative. Strategy number 2 is brutal in its simplicity. Never give foolish people more information than they need. Control what they can see, what they can repeat, and what they can twist. The moment you forget this, you hand them a weapon and politely point it at your own head. Machiavelli understood something most modern, transparent leaders ignore. People do not act on the full truth. They act on appearances, rumors, and short stories they can tell each other. You see, in politics and in daily life, the ruler who controls appearances controls behavior. If you manage what people notice, you silently manage what they do. Think about it. Have you ever shared the full complex context behind a decision, believing that if everyone saw the complete picture, they would reach a rational conclusion? You walk them through the data, the trade-offs, the constraints. You assume logic will win. Then you watch in disbelief as the most foolish person in the room grabs one ugly detail, rips it out of context, and turns it into a weapon. This is the failure pattern of intelligent people. They overshare. They confuse honesty with exposure. They imagine that if they open the entire book, every page will be read with care. In reality, fools skim for the most dramatic sentence, highlight it in neon, and shout it to anyone who will listen. The conversation stops being about the decision and becomes about the worst-looking fragment of it. You present a careful budget. They isolate the one cut that sounds cruel. You explain a strategic delay. They repeat only the missed deadline. You outline a long-term plan. They fixate on the short-term discomfort. Power leaks away as your nuanced explanation is reduced to a cheap slogan that makes you look incompetent or malicious. This is why Machiavelli advised rulers to appear virtuous while acting purely in their own interest. He knew the crowd does not want the messy truth. It wants a simple story. Intelligent people respect complexity, but foolish people cannot carry it without dropping it on your head. So the Machiavellian move is clear. You feed the public a controlled illusion, while the real strategy stays behind a locked door. You do not lie about everything. You curate. You decide what is visible and what remains backstage. To the masses, you provide clear, favorable explanations they can repeat without distorting your position. To the few who have earned your trust and have the capacity to handle complexity, you reveal the full map. The real sign of intelligence is not how much you can explain, but how much you can afford not to explain. When you master this, foolish people run out of ammunition before the argument even begins. In the next strategy, you'll see how Machiavellian players go one step further and turn those same fools against each other, so no single narrative can rise strong enough to threaten your control. How elites use illusions while preaching transparency. And this is exactly where Machiavelli's second weapon comes in. Illusions. Not truth, not full disclosure. Carefully engineered illusions that look like honesty from a distance. Look at modern politics. Parties go on television, preaching unity, transparency, accountability. They hold town halls, live streams, press conferences. It feels open, it feels honest, but behind the scenes, entire teams are deciding which statistics to spotlight and which to bury, which scandals to inflate and which to starve of oxygen, which stories to repeat until they become common sense. You see, they are not sharing reality. They are editing your emotional emotional experience of reality. Think about it. Election campaigns brag about data-driven decisions. But what is that data used for? To discover which fear will mobilize you, which outrage will keep your attention, which simple slogan will split the world into heroes and villains. You bring a complex, nuanced view of life. They offer a clean, dramatic narrative. You wonder what's true, they tell you what to feel. The moment you accept their frame, logic is already working for their story, not for the truth. Corporate power plays the same game with a different costume. Executives talk about open communication, radical transparency at all hands meetings. They say, ask anything. It sounds noble, but when a crisis hits, do you see raw chaos or a scripted sequence? First, a vague email, then a carefully worded FAQ, then a video with perfect lighting and controlled emotion. Every word is tested, every phrase is chosen to calm investors, pacify employees, and control the media's angle step by step. Here is the pattern interrupt, that authentic town hall, where leaders take unfiltered questions. Most of those questions were screened. Some were written by the PR team themselves. This is why you rarely hear anything truly dangerous on that stage. The illusion of openness protects the machinery of control. Underneath all of this is a simple psychological mechanism. People crave a story, not a spreadsheet. A story with clear heroes, clear villains, and a clear cause. Reality is messy, uncertain, full of moving parts. That drains energy. A simple narrative restores it. Whoever supplies that story first usually wins, even if their version is a ruthless oversimplification of the truth. Now compare that to the honest but unstrategic manager. They panic during a problem and dump every messy detail on the table. No framing, no structure, no clear story. You see confusion, defensiveness, scattered logic. People walk away not with clarity but with suspicion. Too much raw information, no narrative. They look guilty even when they are not. The real sign of intelligence is not information but orchestration. If you do not shape the story, the loudest fool in the room will. They will rush in with a simple, dramatic explanation that flatters their ego and blames you. Once their version spreads, your facts arrive too late and sound like excuses. In the next strategy, you'll see how Machiavellian players preload the narrative before any crisis appears, so that when trouble hits, everyone is already prepared to believe their side. Practical filters. Who deserves the full truth? So if the story spreads before you speak, the real question becomes this: who are you actually going to tell your side to? Not everyone deserves the full truth. Not everyone has earned access to your fears, your mistakes, or your real plans. Power is not radical transparency. Power is controlled visibility. Think about it. You already use tiers of access with your passwords, your bank accounts, your devices, yet most people dump their entire emotional hard drive into whoever happens to be nearby. That is how intelligent people lose control of the narrative before the real conversation even begins. Machiavellian players do the opposite. They design information tiers for their life. At the top tier are the rare people who get full context. These are the ones who have proven they can handle nuance without panicking, gossiping, or turning your vulnerability into ammunition. You see, the real sign of intelligence is not how clever someone sounds when they give advice. It is how calmly they behave when things go wrong. Do they stay rational when pressure rises? Do they keep private what was shared in confidence? Do they protect you even when no one is watching? Then there is everyone else. Colleagues, relatives, acquaintances, even friends who have not passed the stress test. With them, you never hand over the full script. You give headlines, not chapters. You give direction, not confession. This is why Machiavelli was hated by moral idealists. He said openly what powerful people already practice in private. So what disqualifies someone from full truth? Pay attention to red flags. A person who accidentally leaks private conversations is telling you their real loyalty is to attention, not to you. A person who dramatizes small issues into public spectacles is telling you they crave chaos more than resolution. A person who constantly needs to tell their side after every disagreement is announcing that their ego will always be more important than accuracy. With these people, you do not argue, you do not explain, and you do not overshare. You respond with short, calm, boring answers that cannot be weaponized. We're handling it. It's under review. I'll let you know when there's more to share. No drama, no extra details, nothing quotable. The moment you stop feeding them emotional content, they lose their power over your reputation. In this video, you are going to learn why this filter is only the beginning. Because strategy number 3 goes beyond controlling who hears the truth. It shows you how ruthless players actively shape who talks to whom. Imagine not only limiting information, but arranging it so your potential allies quietly distrust each other while trusting you more. How does that work in practice? That is where things start to look truly dangerous. Strategy number 3. Divide and rule before they unite against you. Strategy number 3 is simple to say and brutal to watch in action. Never let all your critics stand on the same side. Never let all your rivals look at you from the same angle. The moment everyone with a problem sees themselves as part of one big team, your power is on a countdown. Machiavelli praised rulers who understood this instinctively. In his world, princes survived not by uniting factions, but by keeping them slightly divided, slightly jealous, slightly unsure of each other. You see, as long as no single group becomes strong enough to coordinate, no one can organize a clean strike against the throne. The ruler appears calm, even generous, while beneath the surface he is constantly rearranging who talks to whom and what each side believes about the other. Think about it. Modern intelligent people are trained to do the opposite. You are told to bring everyone together, to get all the stakeholders in the same room, to clear the air in one big conversation. It sounds noble, it feels mature, but what usually happens? You walk in trying to solve tension, and you walk out having created a coalition of people who now share the same grievances about you. You bring transparency, they bring shared resentment. You offer logic, they trade stories. You try to fix the problem, they discover they were all annoyed with you for the same reasons. This is why harmony, handled naively, becomes a weapon against you. You thought you were building unity. You were actually building an alliance. Machiavelli admired leaders who did the opposite. They spoke to each faction separately. They praised each one for different reasons. They hinted carefully that others might not fully appreciate them. No open drama, no screaming arguments, no obvious manipulation, quiet, constant calibration of trust. The real sign of intelligence is not in winning a big public argument. It is in making sure that argument never gathers its full strength in the first place. Here is the psychological engine behind this strategy. When people feel uniquely seen by you, they hesitate to merge completely with others. When they feel uniquely informed, they become cautious about what they share because they are not sure what you have told the other side. When they feel uniquely favored, they instinctively protect that favor, and they do not fully trust anyone who might be competing for the same position. You see, this is not about starting drama for fun. It is about preventing dangerous alliances before they exist. You do not need to lie. You do not need to invent conflicts. You simply make sure no one feels like they fully understand your relationship with anyone else. Your conversations are specific, not collective. Your promises are tailored, not broadcast. In this video, you are going to learn how this principle scales far beyond petty office politics, because strategy number 4 takes this same cold clarity and applies it to something far more shocking: when to use cruelty once instead of being nice forever. Subtle ways to keep rivals competing, not collaborating. Cruelty is the loud version of power. Divide and rule is the quiet version. In a world obsessed with teamwork, this is the strategy nobody admits using, but every serious player uses anyway. You see, most people assume unity is always good. They push for "we're all one big family" cultures, then act shocked when that united family turns against them. Machiavelli would call that foolish. The real sign of intelligence is not whether people like each other. It is whether their interests quietly prevent them from uniting against you. Picture a manager with 2 ambitious team leads. Both want promotion, both want recognition, both have ego. The average leader throws them into the same bucket, gives them identical tasks, and then wonders why they bond over late-night complaints about how management doesn't get it. Power is lost at that moment because their frustration fuses into a single argument aimed upward. An intelligent manager does something different. Lead A owns client relationships and external results. Lead B owns internal process and team efficiency. When a project succeeds, the manager praises Lead A publicly for keeping the client thrilled, and later thanks Lead B privately for making sure the engine actually works. Same project, different recognition, different emotional payoff. Think about it. They are both chasing your approval, but from slightly different angles. They compete to impress up instead of collaborating to complain sideways. Now add information asymmetry. You share non-critical, tailored details with each person. With one, you mention, "I'm counting on your judgment with senior leadership." With the other, "I really rely on your read of the team's mood." Each feels a unique connection. Each feels they see a side of you others do not. The moment someone tries to stir rebellion, there is a pause. Do they know what I know? Can I fully trust this conversation? That hesitation is worth more than any motivational speech. Language becomes your scalpel. You do not flatter the group. You look someone in the eye and say, "I really rely on your judgment here," or "You're the only one I trust to handle this client without drama." Short, declarative, direct, personal. Over time, every person experiences a slightly different version of you. Mentor, sponsor, shield, challenger. This is why when an agitator tries to rally everyone against you, it never quite clicks. Their story about you does not match everyone else's experience. Here is the pattern interrupt. This only works if you actually respect them. If your divide and rule is cartoonishly obvious, If you gossip, lie, or openly pit people against each other, you trigger the one thing you fear most: common enemy syndrome. Suddenly, the room aligns, not around shared goals, but around shared disgust. So you stay subtle. You align incentives without fabricating drama. You distribute information without fabricating secrets. You keep your power by shaping the invisible structure of relationships, not by screaming orders. Because in the next strategy, you are going to see what happens when that structure fails, and why some rulers resort to open cruelty when quiet control is no longer enough. When unity is a trap, stop trying to fix every group. But when that quiet control starts to crack, most intelligent people make the same fatal mistake. They try to fix it with unity. You see, the moment tension appears in a team, a family, a group chat, the peacemaker instinct wakes up. You feel responsible. You tell yourself, if everyone could just sit down and talk this out, the truth would win, the drama would end, and we could all move forward. It sounds noble, it feels mature. It is also one of the fastest ways to lose power. Think about it. You bring everyone into one big conversation. You prepare your logic, your evidence, your calm explanation. But what actually happens? The loudest, most emotional, most foolish person in the room suddenly has an audience. They're not looking for truth. They are looking for attention. The group setting hands them a stage, a spotlight, and a crowd. This is why all hands conversations so often spiral. You speak once, they speak 10 times. You stay rational, they get theatrical. You try to solve the problem, they try to win the room. The more people watching, the more their ego inflates, and the more pressure you feel to defend yourself in real time. The battlefield has shifted from reason to performance, and performance always rewards the most shameless actor. Machiavelli understood this long before social media turned every argument into public theater. He warned that when factions unite in one place, the ruler risks creating a single mob instead of many manageable clusters. Intelligent leaders do not merge every conflict into one dramatic showdown. They fragment it, they contain it. The Machiavellian alternative is simple, but it demands discipline. Let small tensions stay small. Do not rush to clear the air with a grand summit. Handle issues in separate, quiet conversations where ego has less oxygen and foolish people have fewer spectators. You talk to one person in private, then another, adjusting expectations, aligning incentives, lowering temperature. No big speech, no public trial, no arena for a clown to become a hero. Here is the diagnostic question that protects your control. If you put all these people in the same room, who benefits the most from the chaos? If the honest answer is the fool, you do not call that meeting. You let them complain in smaller circles while you keep your power over the bigger picture. The real sign of intelligence is not the courage to face everyone at once. It is the restraint to avoid battles that turn into theater you cannot control. Because in the next strategy, you are going to learn something darker. What to do when containment fails, when softness has only fed the problem, and why one act of calculated cruelty can end years of being endlessly reasonable and endlessly ignored. Strategy number 4, calculated cruelty beats endless niceness. This is where most intelligent people fail. They avoid looking cruel for so long that they end up looking weak. And in power games, weakness is the one sin nobody forgives. Strategy number 4 is simple to say and hard to live. When you must be harsh once, clearly and decisively, so you never have to fight the same battle again. No repeated warnings, no emotional debates. One act that makes the boundary unforgettable. Machiavelli gives you a brutal example. Cesare Borgia was sent to pacify Romagna, a region full of corruption, chaos, and constant violence. Instead of endless meetings, gentle reforms, and polite conversations, he sent a ruthless enforcer, Ramiro de Orco, to crush disorder with severe public punishment. It was ugly, it was efficient. Order returned quickly because people understood, in their bones, that the new line was real. Then, when peace was restored, Borgia executed his own enforcer and displayed the body in the town square. Think about it. One concentrated wave of terror, followed by a symbolic execution to blame the cruelty on someone else, and the population was both controlled and oddly grateful. Cruelty, used once and calculated, protected thousands from years of small, ongoing abuses. Now compare that to what most decent people do. You see, you tolerate the small disrespect at work, the colleague who interrupts you, the friend who jokes at your expense, the partner who dismisses your concerns. You hope it will fade. You tell yourself they will notice on their own. When it doesn't stop, you give soft, repeated corrections. You explain, you over-explain. You ask nicely again. What happens? The behavior continues. It may even get worse, because your reactions teach a lesson. Your limits are negotiable. The moment every violation is met with a long conversation instead of a firm consequence, people realize there is no real cost to testing you. Human psychology is simple here. People test boundaries, children do it, employees do it, friends and strangers do it. They push, not always because they are evil, but because ego wants to know how far it can go. If every push meets softness, if every disrespect meets emotional reasoning instead of decisive action, the foolish conclude that you are safe to ignore. Calculated cruelty reverses that equation. It is not about sadism. It is not about enjoying someone's pain. It is about sending a clear signal. This line is real. Cross it, and there is a sharp, memorable cost. One serious consequence beats 50 emotional arguments. This is why the real sign of intelligence is not infinite patience with disrespect. It is the courage to create one defining moment that changes future behavior. You are not constantly angry. You are not constantly punishing. You are calm. You are clear. And when the line is crossed after fair warning, you respond in a way that nobody forgets. Ask yourself, which reputation protects your energy more? The endlessly reasonable person others can safely drain, or the calm person who rarely reacts, but when pushed too far, makes the entire room rethink their choices? In this video, you are going to learn how to design that reputation intentionally. Because in the next strategy, you will see how to turn even your enemies into tools so that the fear of crossing you becomes a resource you can spend, not a burden you carry. How to deliver one hard strike without looking like a villain. The moment people realize you are not infinitely patient, their behavior changes. But if you swing wildly, you look unstable. If you strike once, cleanly, after a long runway of fairness, you look like someone who deserves power. This is why Machiavelli talked about well-used cruelty, not constant aggression. One hard move at the right time after warnings. You see, a calculated strike has three parts: private warnings, clear documentation, and then one decisive action that permanently changes the relationship or environment. First, the private warnings. You do not humiliate them in public. You pull them aside. You describe the behavior, not their identity. You say, when you do X, it creates Y problem. That cannot continue. Calm, specific, controlled, no long argument, no emotional lecture they can flip back on you. Think about it. Most people never even give a clear warning, then explode later and look irrational. Second, documentation. Intelligent people keep receipts. You send a short follow-up. As discussed, this needs to change. X, Y, Z. You note the dates. You track the pattern. You are not collecting drama. You are collecting proof. Proof for yourself, so you don't gaslight your own memory, and proof for any observers who later ask, was that really necessary? Then comes the strike. One move that changes the game. Not a screaming match, not a public meltdown. A structural change. You remove them from the group chat they keep poisoning. You reassign the chronic saboteur to a role with less influence and less access to sensitive information. You cut off shared passwords, shared accounts, shared favors after repeated boundary violations. The relationship still exists, but the power they had inside your world is gone. Timing is everything. You do not act in the heat of the moment, when your ego is screaming for revenge. You act after the pattern is undeniable, when your energy is cool and your logic is sharp. That way, anyone watching sees a measured decision, not an emotional outburst. The real sign of intelligence is the ability to delay the hit until it is clearly justified. Now, how do you frame it? Simple, factual language. No speeches, no courtroom drama. You say, we've talked about this before. This pattern isn't changing. So from now on, and then you state the new reality. Short sentence, clear consequence, then silence. The more you explain, the more room you give them to drag you into a foolish conversation. Here is the perception angle most people miss. Because you have been visibly patient, because you warned them, because you stayed calm, reasonable people will secretly feel relief when you finally act. To them, your harsh move looks like overdue justice, not cruelty. They watched the pattern. They saw you try. They know you did not strike first. You finished what the other person insisted on starting. Pattern interrupt. What if you never delivered that strike? You would train everyone that your boundaries are theater, words with no teeth, attention with no control. In this video, you are going to learn how Machiavellian players avoid that trap. In the next strategy, you will see how to turn even your punishments into a public lesson so that one person's mistake becomes a warning the entire room never forgets. The cost of being nice forever. Now, let's begin with the uncomfortable reality almost no one wants to admit. The true cost of being nice forever is not a single dramatic betrayal. It is a slow, quiet bleed. Every time you let a disrespectful comment slide, every time you laugh off a subtle insult or a small act of sabotage, you are not avoiding conflict. You are training an audience. You see, people are always watching how you respond. You think you are being the bigger person. They see something else. They see that your boundaries are negotiable. They see that your attention can be taken without consequence. They see that your energy can be drained by foolish behavior and you will still come back smiling, ready for the next round. Think about it. What are you really teaching them? Fools do not interpret kindness as generosity. They interpret it as weakness and permission. You give a polite warning. They push harder. You explain your side with calm logic. They interrupt, twist your words, and escalate the drama, because nothing serious ever happens when they cross the line. The moment they realize there is no real cost, Their ego feels safe to expand. They become bolder, louder, more reckless in every conversation. This is why being endlessly understanding becomes a trap. You imagine your patience will inspire change. In reality, it removes all incentive to change. Intelligent people respond to consequences. Foolish people respond only when reality hits them so hard they can no longer pretend. Until that point, your niceness is free fuel for their behavior. But the damage does not stop with them. The real sign of intelligence is to notice what the bystanders are doing. The smart, reasonable people in the room are also watching. At first, they sympathize with you. Then they start to wonder. If you tolerate open disrespect, if you allow public challenges to your authority with no decisive response, how much control do you actually have? You bring stability, they see chaos around you, you speak about standards, they watch you ignore violation after violation. Quietly, they begin to lose respect. Quietly, they start looking for someone else to follow, someone who can protect their time and maintain order without endless argument. So you end up with two futures. In the first, you endure years of low-level disrespect, constant drama, and circular conversations. Your attention is fragmented. Your power leaks away through 1,000 small cuts. You are always managing crises that never should have existed. In the second future, you make one hard, clean decision. You cut off the repeat offender. You remove their access, reduce their influence, or expose their behavior so clearly that no one can pretend not to see it. The pattern ends, your energy returns, the room recalibrates around your standards. Machiavelli would say even that is only the beginning. He went further. He believed that, used correctly, an enemy could be more valuable than a friend. How do you turn the very people who test your boundaries into tools that expand your power instead of draining it? Strategy number 5. Use enemies better than friends. Machiavelli's answer is brutal and elegant. You do not erase your enemies, you promote them. A visible enemy can be more valuable than a lukewarm friend because they give you contrast, clarity, and a stage to demonstrate your strength. Think about it. A friend who quietly approves of you in private changes nothing. An enemy who loudly attacks you in public creates a spotlight. They drag attention to you. They frame the argument. They spend their energy naming you as the central character in the story. If you understand power, you do not run from that. You use it. You see, Machiavelli watched rulers who were loved but vague, no clear opponent, no clear threat. Their people grew restless, divided, distracted. Then a new enemy appeared, and suddenly everyone unified behind the ruler. Because fear and conflict gave shape to their loyalty. The enemy justified new laws, new taxes, new crackdowns that would have looked cruel without a villain to blame. This is why he said it is safer to be feared than loved. Not because cruelty is fun, but because strong, visible boundaries require a contrast. Without an enemy, strength looks harsh. With an enemy, strength looks necessary. The same decision that would seem ruthless in peace feels protective in conflict. Most intelligent people fail here. They obsess over converting enemies into friends. They write long messages, schedule meetings, explain their truth again and again. You bring logic, they bring ego. You try to clarify, they twist your words. You stay rational, they get emotional. Hours vanish, your energy drains, nothing changes. The real sign of intelligence is noticing when someone is committed to misunderstanding you. At that point, the goal is not reconciliation. The goal is strategic use. You stop trying to fix the relationship and start asking a different question. How can this person's hostility increase my power? Here is the psychological mechanism. When people watch an irrational attack, their brains run a comparison. If your enemy looks hysterical while you remain composed, the contrast does the persuasion for you. You do not need a perfect argument. You need a perfect posture. Calm voice, simple sentences, no defensive over-explaining. The more foolish they appear, the more reasonable you look. Suddenly, your enemy becomes unpaid PR. They repeat your name. They advertise your existence. They reveal their own pettiness. You quietly signal your values, competence, and control by how you respond or refuse to respond. The audience concludes, one of them is clearly driven by ego, and it is not you. The moment you understand this, your goal shifts. The power move is not to destroy your enemy. It is to let them overplay their hand while you conserve energy and harvest credibility. You do not escalate. You do not chase. You set clear lines, then allow time and their own behavior to expose them. In the next strategy, you will see how Machiavellian thinkers go even further. They build systems where they never depend on gratitude, not from friends, and definitely not from enemies. Turning attacks into free advertising, real Machiavellian thinkers go even further than letting enemies expose themselves. They turn those enemies into unpaid publicists. Every insult, every call-out, every attack becomes free advertising for their name, their work, their power. Think about it. Most people see an attack and panic. The intelligent see a spotlight and ask one question: what do I want people to see when the light hits me? This is why your reaction matters more than their accusation. You cannot always control when someone drags your name into a conversation, but you can control the frame that sticks in people's minds. Panic broadcasts weakness. Poise broadcasts control. The moment you start flailing, explaining, over-defending, you confirm the story your enemies are trying to sell. When you stay calm, factual, and focused on a bigger mission, you quietly rewrite that story in real time. So how do you do this in practice? Use a simple response template. First, acknowledge the criticism briefly, without drama. Second, correct any dangerous lie with one clear fact, not a 10-minute rant. Third, pivot immediately to your larger purpose, your values, your direction. You see, the goal is not to win the argument. The goal is to use their noise to highlight your narrative. Listen to the difference. A foolish leader under fire snaps, "These people are idiots. They're all haters. They don't understand anything." Ego, emotion, chaos. A strategic leader says, "I understand the concern. Here's what's actually happening. And this is why we're focused on building X, serving Y, delivering Z." Same attack, completely different use of the spotlight. One looks defensive, the other looks in control. When you respond like this, you disarm fools without ever wrestling in the mud with them. They want you angry, they want you emotional, they want a messy public argument where volume beats logic and they can perform for an audience. Instead, you refuse the theater. You answer once, clearly, then you go back to work. Suddenly they look petty, obsessed, and small, while you look disciplined and mission-driven. Here is the pattern interrupt most people never use. Mentally thank your enemies. Every time a foolish person rants about you, they are reminding the world you exist. They are spending their attention and energy to put your name into more minds. If you handle the moment with calm authority, their attack becomes a trailer for your brand. The real sign of intelligence is to let them do the marketing while you keep the power. Machiavelli understood this centuries before PR existed. He watched rulers turn scandal into strength by appearing steady, composed, and relentlessly focused on results while others screamed. In this video, you are going to learn how to combine that same cold discipline with something even more dangerous, using your enemies not only as free advertisers, but as structural pillars in your system of power, choosing the right enemies and ignoring the rest. And this is where most people destroy their own power without realizing it. They hear Machiavelli talk about using enemies, and suddenly every critic, every comment, every disagreement becomes a personal war. That is not intelligence. That is ego disguised as strategy. You see, not every critic qualifies as an enemy. Some people are background static. They complain, they project, they throw random opinions into the conversation, but they have no reach, no influence, no real ability to damage you. The real sign of intelligence is knowing when someone is an actual threat to your position, and when they are simply noise you should step over without a second glance. Think about it. You bring results, they bring rumors. You stay focused, they refresh your page, waiting for a reaction. You are building something real, they are recycling the same 3 insults to an audience of 5. When you treat these people as enemies, you are not defending yourself, you are volunteering to be dragged down to their level. Machiavelli understood that a useful enemy is a very specific creature. They are visible enough that their attacks draw attention, but foolish or extreme enough that their behavior makes you look calm, competent, and reasonable by contrast. Their rage becomes your free advertisement. Their exaggerations make your measured tone look like truth. Their obsession makes your restraint look like control. This is why powerful people avoid punching down. When you publicly engage with low-status trolls, you elevate them. You hand them your spotlight. You prove that a mosquito can move a giant. To everyone watching, the message is simple. Your ego is fragile. Your attention is cheap. Your control can be bought with a single disrespectful comment. So you need a rule. If their audience is bigger than yours, and they are clearly overreaching, a calm, precise response can help you. You do not rant. You do not beg. You simply correct the record, demonstrate competence, and let their aggression frame you as the adult in the room. If their audience is tiny, silence is usually the strongest flex. They swing wildly, you do nothing, and the absence of your reaction exposes the gap in status more brutally than any argument. The moment you learn to ignore low-value conflicts, your energy returns, your attention sharpens. You stop living in permanent defense mode and start choosing battles that actually expand your power. But there is a darker side to this, because while enemies can be useful, there is one thing Machiavelli warns you never to rely on. In the next strategy, you are going to see why depending on people's gratitude is suicidal, and why the real masters of power build something far colder than loyalty. Strategy number 6, never trust gratitude, engineer dependence. So here is strategy number 6, never trust gratitude, engineer dependence. Most people build their entire life on the opposite belief. They help, they sacrifice, they show loyalty, and they assume that one day all that goodwill will come back to protect them. That is not how power works. Machiavelli's warning is brutal. He writes that people forget favors faster than they forget injuries, and that they remember their own interests forever. Think about it. You remember every time someone disrespected you, but the times they quietly helped you, those blur together. Gratitude fades, self-interest does not. This is why intelligent people who rely on loyalty keep getting blindsided. You help a colleague get a promotion, you introduce a friend to your network, you defend someone in a brutal argument. Later, when you need them, they are busy, confused, or suddenly neutral. You see, they were grateful for a moment, but their interests changed. Their memory of your sacrifice did not. The failure pattern looks like this. You assume that being generous automatically creates an invisible contract. You expect that because you were there for them, they will be there for you. It feels logical and fair. But power is not built on what feels fair. Power is built on what people cannot afford to lose. The moment you forget this, you start trading real energy for imaginary loyalty. Machiavelli understood the psychology behind this. When someone receives a favor, their ego does something quiet and dangerous. At first they feel thankful, then quickly they rewrite the story. They tell themselves they deserved the opportunity, that you were simply recognizing their value, that it would have happened anyway. The more their pride grows, the smaller your contribution becomes in their mind. This is why people you helped can later betray you without feeling like villains. In their internal narrative, they are not ungrateful. They are simply following what makes sense right now. Their story protects their ego. Your past kindness does not even enter the calculation. So the Machiavellian move is not to stop helping people. The move is to stop helping in ways that are clean, complete, and easy to walk away from. Instead, you design relationships where your value is continuous. Access runs through you. Information runs through you. Opportunities run through you. You are not a favor they once received. You are infrastructure they rely on. The real sign of intelligence is to make self-interest your ally instead of your enemy. When you control something they need and cannot easily replace, you do not have to demand loyalty. Their own survival instinct keeps them aligned. They can dislike you. They can disagree with you. They cannot ignore you. In this video, you are going to learn exactly how to create those structures. Because in the next strategy, we go one level deeper, how to exploit foolish ego and pride without ever entering a direct confrontation, building systems of dependence without being obvious. Now, let's begin with a brutal correction. Dependence is not always dirty. Most people hear that word and picture manipulation, control, some cartoon villain pulling strings. In the real world, intelligent people quietly build dependence by doing one simple thing. They become the person whose absence would immediately hurt. Think about it. Power is not only about titles or authority. Power is about being embedded in the system in a way that cannot be replaced by a quick hire, a software update, or a motivational speech. When you are the one who consistently delivers results others cannot replicate, dependence stops being sinister and becomes structural. You see, at that point, people protect you because protecting you is protecting themselves. So how do you do this without looking obvious or manipulative? You become critical in ways that are hard to copy quickly. You are the only one who understands a key system end to end. You are the connector who quietly introduces people to opportunities, investors, clients, or information they would never access alone. You are the calm problem solver in crises, the person everyone calls when the situation is chaotic, public, and emotional, because they know your logic will cut through the noise. Notice something. These forms of dependence are not about flattery or ego. They are about function. The moment you disappear, projects stall, doors close, and tension rises. That is real leverage. But here is the Machiavellian layer. You formalize this without giving away everything. You document your processes selectively. You write guides that explain 80% of what you do, not 100. You keep certain high-leverage skills slightly mysterious, not by lying, but by mastering nuance that is very hard to transmit in a single training session. You help people learn, but you never train any one person to fully replace you overnight. Is that unethical? Ask yourself a different question. Are they building systems to protect your survival, or only theirs? This is why Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely on gratitude. Gratitude is emotional. Systems are structural. Intelligent players build structures where removing them creates immediate, visible pain, lost access, lost stability, lost opportunity. In practical terms, you want a simple perception to sit in everyone's mind. If we lose this person, we bleed, not collapse. Not extinction, bleeding. Enough pain that any foolish argument about your value dies before it starts. Enough discomfort that even your enemies hesitate to push you out because they still need what you control. But there is a line you do not cross. If you make people completely helpless without you, they will eventually resent you. Total dependence feels like a cage. The sweet spot is hard to replace, not impossible to survive without. The real sign of intelligence is to give people enough autonomy that they feel strong while keeping the deepest levers in your hands. Pattern interrupt. Ask yourself right now, if you vanished for 30 days, what would actually break? Whatever came to mind first, that is where your quiet empire begins. In the next strategy, you will see how to aim that empire directly at foolish ego, so their pride works for you, while they still believe they are in control. Stop giving free favors to future traitors. So now that you see how to quietly build an empire that survives your absence, you need to face the next brutal truth. Most of the people you keep rescuing today will become your enemies the moment it benefits them. You keep feeding future traitors, then acting surprised when they bite. The fantasy sounds noble. If I help them now, they'll remember and help me later. It feels logical. It feels fair. But in real power games, this belief is a trap. You see, Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely on gratitude, not because people are always evil, but because their memory bends around their own ego. They remember their effort, they forget your sacrifice. Think about it. How many times have you pulled someone out of chaos, introduced them to your network, fixed their disaster at 2 a.m. and told yourself, they'll never forget this? Then watch what actually happens. The moment their situation stabilizes, their attention shifts. They stop replaying what you did. They start focusing on what you didn't do. You bring support, they bring revisionist history. You explain how you went out of your way. They explain how they were going to figure it out anyway. You talk about the doors you opened. They talk about how hard they worked once the door was open. This is why your favor bank never seems to pay interest. Their mind has already converted your gift into their own personal legend. Psychologically, it is simple. To feel powerful, people minimize the debt they owe. They inflate their struggle, downplay your role, and convince themselves that the outcome was inevitable. That story protects their pride. It also erases your leverage. The moment you expect loyalty purely from past generosity, you are negotiating with a story that exists only in your head. So, you need a new rule. Only invest heavily in people whose incentives are structurally tied to your success. Shared projects, shared reputation, shared upside. When their income, their image, their future depends on you winning, gratitude is no longer a feeling. It is a survival strategy. The real sign of intelligence is to stop betting on memory and start betting on mechanisms. This is why intelligent operators build ecosystems of mutual dependence instead of worshipping loyalty. You design situations where if they betray you, they also damage themselves. If they elevate you, they elevate their own position. At that point, you are not hoping they remember your kindness. You are controlling the frame they live in. Strategic generosity still matters, but you must split it. Give small, low-cost favors widely. A quick introduction, a useful idea, a short conversation that costs you almost no energy. These create weak ties and good optics without draining your power. Then reserve your big sacrifices for the few people already locked into your system of shared risk and shared reward. They are not nice, they are necessary. Now let's begin the most subversive turn, because even inside this ecosystem, you will still face foolish, pride-driven people who cannot be reasoned with. In the next strategy, you will see how to outsmart their ego so completely that you steer their behavior without arguing, without explaining, and without ever letting them realize they were the ones being controlled. Strategy number 7, outsmart the fool. Never argue, always direct. Strategy number 7 is brutal in its simplicity. You do not enlighten fools, you steer them. Most people waste years trying to upgrade other people's minds. Machiavelli would call that a beautiful way to lose your power. Think about it. How many conversations have you had where you brought facts, clarity, and logic, and the other person brought ego, volume, and wounded pride? You explain patiently, they interrupt. You show evidence, they move the goalposts. You stay calm, they get louder. The more intelligent you are, the more tempting it feels to fix them with the perfect argument. This is why you keep walking away exhausted, replaying the conversation in your head, thinking, if I had explained it better, they would have understood. No, they would not, because the real problem was never the explanation. The real problem was their ego. You see, the moment someone feels stupid, exposed, or corrected in public, their brain does not search for truth. It searches for a way to protect its pride. Machiavelli understood this before modern psychology had a name for it. He wrote that most people are ruled by appearances, not reality. by how they look, not what is true. The wise ruler does not fight this. He uses it. He does not attempt to drag foolish people toward truth with raw logic. He dresses his intention in flattering appearances and lets their vanity pull them in the direction he wants. Here is the failure pattern intelligent people fall into. You see a foolish decision forming. You step in to help. You correct the person directly. You highlight the flaw. You expose the risk. On paper, you are saving them. In their mind, you are attacking them. Their status feels threatened. Their self-image as a smart, competent adult starts to crack. So what do? They double down. They talk more. They get defensive. They start searching for any example, any story, any ally that proves you wrong. At that point, the conversation has stopped being about the original issue. It has become a status contest. And here is the trap. Status contests are not decided by logic. They are decided by emotion, by audience, by who looks more confident. The power move is different. Instead of saying, "You're wrong, do this," you frame your idea so it protects their pride. You plant a suggestion privately. You ask guiding questions that make them feel like they discovered the answer. You attach your preferred behavior to their existing self-image. A smart person like you will probably, and then you describe exactly what you want them to do. The real sign of intelligence is that you stop needing credit. You let the fool feel brilliant while they walk exactly where you wanted them. Outwardly, they won the argument. In reality, you won the outcome. In the next part, you will see how to combine this with silence and timing so that foolish people expose themselves publicly while believing they are in complete control. Let them think it was their idea. Let's go one level deeper into this. You let them win the outcome. Now you're going to let them invent the path to it. This is where real power hides, not in announcing the plan, but in planting it. The tactic is simple to describe and devastating when mastered. Instead of saying, "You should do X," you create a conversation where X appears as their own discovery. You ask questions, you drop examples, you lay out options that all tilt in the direction you want, then you wait. The moment they say, "Hold on, what if we did X?" you stop pushing and start agreeing. Think about it. When you give a direct instruction, the foolish ego hears an attack. "You're telling me what to do. You're smarter than me. You're correcting me." Resistance spikes. Arguments start. Energy is wasted. But when the same ego feels like it generated the solution, there is no inner enemy to fight. They feel clever, not corrected. They feel powerful, not exposed. You see, this is why intelligent people use questions as weapons, not explanations. Listen to the difference. Direct, "You're handling this wrong. You should do X." Indirect, "I'm not sure what the best move is here. Some people in your position have tried X or Y. What do you think would make you look strongest?" In both cases, X is on the table. In only one case does their pride stay intact. Notice the structure of that line. First, you lower your own status. "I'm not sure." That disarms their defensive logic. Then you invoke "people in your position," which flatters their role without sounding like flattery. Then you connect the options to their self-image, make you look strongest. You are not arguing about truth. You are appealing directly to their ego's favorite fantasy. This creates a win-win that has nothing to do with fairness and everything to do with control. You get the outcome you wanted without a fight, without a public argument, without draining your attention. They get to walk away thinking, "I made the decisive call. I saw the smart move." They will defend that idea harder because they believe it is theirs. They will spend their energy selling your plan to others, protecting it, expanding it. Pattern, interrupt. Ask yourself a dangerous question. Do you actually want results, or do you crave visible credit? The real sign of intelligence is that you can let go of the spotlight when it weakens your position. Machiavelli was demonized for saying this out loud. Rulers should care more about effective perception than moral applause. The same rule applies in every office, every relationship, every group chat. This is not flattery for its own sake. This is engineering. You are choosing influence over recognition. You are sacrificing the short-term pleasure of saying, "That was my idea," for the long-term power of watching foolish people execute your vision with full enthusiasm. In the next section, you will see how to fuse this subtle planting of ideas with silence and timing so that by the time you finally speak, reality has already proven you right and your enemies have trapped themselves. Use their pride as a steering wheel. Now you add the next layer. You don't only plant ideas in foolish people, you drive them with their own pride. Their ego becomes your vehicle. Their need to look important, respected, or feared becomes the fuel. You are no longer pushing them with logic. You are steering them with identity. Think about it. Pride is a steering wheel. You don't rip it out of their hands. You don't argue about where the road is. You let them keep both hands on it while you gently guide the direction. A small comment here, a flattering frame there, and suddenly the dangerous decision they wanted turns into the bold strategic move that conveniently aligns with your interests. This is why direct confrontation with a proud fool fails. You say, "That's reckless." They hear, "You're small. You bring truth." They hear insult. Their energy goes into defending their image, not examining their choice. Intelligent people don't attack the ego head-on. They wrap their preferred outcome in a costume that flatters the ego and let the fools sprint toward it. You see, fools care less about reality and more about the story they can tell about themselves. They want to feel respected, admired, feared, or superior. If you tie your desired behavior to their desired image, resistance melts. Cooperation suddenly feels like dominance. Backing down suddenly feels like leadership. The real sign of intelligence is understanding that people are not moved by facts alone. They are moved by the identity those facts threaten or protect. For example, the reckless coworker wants to launch a chaotic plan. Instead of arguing, you say, the truly bold move is the one that looks risky, but is actually calculated. If you wait 2 weeks and gather real numbers, you'll look like the only adult in the room. You haven't shamed him. You've sold patience as superiority, or the stubborn relative who never apologizes. You could demand an apology and start another useless argument. Or you say, you've always been the bigger person in this family. That's why your words carry weight. Suddenly, cooperating with you becomes the stage where they can perform their favorite role, the noble one. But there is a razor's edge here. The moment they sense you are appealing to their vanity on purpose, the spell breaks. They feel mocked, humiliated. A proud fool who feels exposed will retaliate harder than before, because now the argument is not about the topic, it is about revenge. You must keep your touch light, your tone sincere, your flattery believable. Now let's begin your practical test. Think of one foolish person in your life. What does their ego crave most? To be respected, feared, admired, or the smartest one in the room? How could you present your preferred outcome as the move that gives them that feeling? When you answer that, you unlock a steering wheel most people never see. And in the next section, you'll discover how to combine this steering of pride with silence and timing so precisely that fools will beg for your approval without realizing the trap they walked into. Pattern interrupt. Why you must stop proving you're smart. But pause here. Forget the fools for a second. We need to talk about you, because all these strategies mean nothing if you are still addicted to one thing, being seen as smart, rational, and morally right by everyone around you. You see, most people are not chasing power. They are chasing recognition. They walk into every conversation on trial, desperate for the other person to silently think, wow, this one is intelligent. Think about it. How many arguments have you walked into that were never about truth, but about your ego demanding a public victory? You see a ridiculous take online. Your attention spikes, your fingers hover over the keyboard, and your mind whispers, I have to correct this. You bring logic, they bring volume. You bring evidence, they bring emotion. Yet you cannot walk away, because your identity is now on the line. This is why foolish people love you when you are in that state. They do not need better arguments. They only need to bait your ego. One comment, one mocking sentence, one smug question. Suddenly, you are writing an essay to a stranger you will never meet, while your real life silently waits in the background. They steal your energy by renting space inside your pride. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. The prince was banned for centuries, not because it was stupid, but because it ripped the mask off these games of ego and morality. He showed that power is not a courtroom where the most righteous speech wins. Power is a chessboard. On a chessboard, you do not argue with every piece. You win key positions. You let some attacks go unanswered because they do not change the outcome. The moment you understand this, your behavior changes. You stop needing to look intelligent in every argument. You stop treating every foolish statement as a personal challenge. You start asking one quiet question. If I win this debate, what actually changes in my life? Most of the time, the honest answer is nothing. So, here is the pattern interrupt. Your goal is no longer to be seen as the smartest person in every room. Your goal is to become the most underestimated. The real sign of intelligence is not dazzling people with how much you know. It is letting them relax, underestimate you, talk too much, reveal their motives, while you quietly stack leverage where it counts. From now on, retire from the unpaid job of correcting the internet. Resign from proving yourself to every colleague, friend, or relative who doesn't get it. Save that attention for moves that actually increase your control over your time, money, reputation, and options. In this video, you are going to learn exactly how to do that in practice. In the next section, we will turn this new identity into a weapon. You will see how silence, timing, and apparent weakness make foolish people expose themselves while you say almost nothing, recognizing when logic is useless, advanced diagnostics. Now, let's begin sharpening the most uncomfortable discipline of all, knowing when logic is useless. The real sign of intelligence is not how well you argue. It is how quickly you sense that the person in front of you is not looking for truth at all. You see, within the first few exchanges, you must decide, are you talking to a truth seeker or a performer? A truth seeker pauses, thinks, asks real questions. A performer treats the conversation like a stage. They want attention, not clarity. Think about it. How many times have you walked away drained, not because the topic was complex, but because the other person was acting, not listening? Machiavelli would call this an error of judgment. You stayed in a battlefield where logic had no authority. Intelligent people learn to spot advanced red flags fast. Watch how they move the goalposts mid-conversation. You answer their challenge, they instantly change the standard. You bring evidence, they suddenly claim the evidence was never the issue. The rules keep shifting because the goal is not resolution. The goal is to never lose. Another red flag, they ignore direct questions. You ask, what exactly would change your mind? Silence. Deflection. A story about something else. When cornered, they change topics entirely, dragging the conversation into new territory where their ego feels safer. You talk about one decision at work, they drag in your past, your personality, your tone. The argument spreads like a stain so that nothing can be pinned down. Pay attention to their emotional stakes. If the issue touches their identity, their public image, or a belief they have held for 10 years, logic will feel like an attack, not a gift. You are not correcting an idea. You are threatening who they believe they are. That is why they get louder, more dramatic, more theatrical, especially in public. The more witnesses, the more their ego must win. This is why you need a simple internal rule. If they're not asking real questions, they're not open to real answers. The moment you see there is no curiosity, only performance, you stop investing energy, you protect your power, you withdraw your attention from a game that cannot be won because the other side refuses to keep the rules. So how do you exit without losing status? You do not beg to be understood, you step out gracefully. Lines like, you might be right, or we see it differently and that's okay, end the performance without feeding it. Sometimes you simply change the subject and let silence do the work. In the next section, you will see how that silence, used with timing and apparent weakness, turns their ego against them while you stay in complete control. Micro-CTA, choose your next battle. Now that apparent weakness is your first real test, it's easy to nod along while you watch a video. The real sign of intelligence is what you do in the next 24 hours, when the foolish arguments in your own life try to drag you back in. So now, let's begin a different kind of exercise. Think about it. Pick one ongoing argument in your life right now. Not a theoretical disagreement, a live battlefield. The coworker who keeps debating the same policy at every meeting. The relative who turns every family dinner into a political war. The stranger online who replies to every comment as if they are defending the fate of the universe. You bring logic, they bring ego. You look for truth, they look for attention. Ask yourself one question. Has this conversation ever actually moved forward? Or does it reset every time, like a bad loop, draining your energy while nothing changes? This is why Machiavellian thinkers step back and study patterns, not episodes. If the pattern is endless debate with no progress, you are not in a discussion, you are in a performance. Here is your move. Right now, choose one of those performances and end your role in it. Not next week, now. Go to the comments and write a simple declaration. I'm done arguing with, and then describe the type of person or situation. I'm done arguing with people who never listen. I'm done arguing with relatives who only want drama. I'm done arguing with strangers online who hide behind fake profiles. You see, the moment you name it publicly, you stop being a passive participant and start becoming a strategic player. It looks small, but it is an identity shift. You are telling yourself, and everyone watching, that you are no longer addicted to being right in every argument. You are addicted to power, to control over where your attention and energy go. Machiavelli was demonized for saying this out loud. Outcomes matter more than appearances. You are now applying that principle to your own conversations. Understand this clearly. Walking away from one stupid argument is not surrender. It is redeployment. You are taking mental troops off a dead battlefield and sending them to a front where your intelligence actually pays off. That project you keep postponing, that skill you keep delaying, that relationship that grows when you are calm instead of constantly defending yourself. Power is not about winning every argument. Power is about choosing which battles deserve your mind. In this video, you're going to learn how all 7 ruthless strategies connect into a single operating system for daily life. Today, you chose one argument to abandon. In the next sections, you will see how to use perception, information, division, calculated cruelty, enemies, and dependence to quietly shape outcomes, while everyone else is still yelling, weaving the 7 strategies into one power framework. You see, this is where the 7 ruthless moves stop being separate tricks and start becoming one operating system. Up to now, you learned how to weaponize perception, control information, divide threats, use calculated cruelty, leverage enemies, engineer dependence, and steer fools instead of arguing with them. Alone, each strategy is sharp. Together, they become a system that quietly bends reality around you. Think about it. When you control information, perception management becomes almost effortless. You decide what people see, so you decide what they feel, and that means you decide what they do. You appear virtuous while acting in your own interest because the story they receive has been filtered through you. The moment you own the story, you no longer need to win the argument. The battlefield is tilted before the first word is spoken. Now, let's begin to link the others. When you divide potential threats, you reduce the number of situations where cruelty is even required. You don't have to crush a united enemy if they never unite. You create subtle frictions, competing loyalties, overlapping incentives, so no single group can turn on you with full strength. Then when you must be harsh, you strike once, cleanly, and the shock travels through a network that is already fragmented and dependent. Dependence is the silent glue. When people need your money, your platform, your access, even your silence, they are less dangerous, even if they dislike you. A furious enemy who still relies on you has to calculate. That is power. You use enemies better than friends because an enemy who attacks recklessly becomes a warning sign to everyone else, while a controlled enemy becomes a tool that shows what happens when someone challenges your position. This is why the real sign of intelligence is not how brilliantly you argue, but how rarely you need to. You design the environment so that most conflicts never fully ignite. You seed information in advance. You arrange alliances in advance. You build dependence in advance. By the time a foolish person wants a dramatic confrontation, the structure around them is already against them. Notice the shift. You move from reactive to proactive, from how do I respond to this insult, to how do I set things up so these people cannot threaten me in the first place. Power stops being a sport of verbal duels and becomes the art of directing energy. Your attention is no longer hijacked by every ego in the room. So who are you becoming? Not a loud debater, but an architect, an operator, someone who understands that conversations are symptoms, not the core disease. In this video, you are going to learn how to live from that identity, not just admire it intellectually. For now, pick one strategy, only one. This week, maybe you practice controlling information instead of oversharing, or you practice steering a foolish person with flattery instead of arguing with them. Small, consistent application beats theoretical understanding every time. In the next section, you'll see exactly how to run this operating system in real situations where the stakes are high and the masks come off. Real-world scenario, the office saboteur. Now let's begin with a place where masks stay on, but knives are out. The office. You walk into a meeting, prepared, calm, armed with logic and real work. 10 minutes in, your friendly coworker smiles, repeats your idea in slightly different words, and the room nods as if it came from them. You speak, they interrupt. You bring data, they bring charm. You outline the plan, they say, yes, building on what I was already doing, and everyone moves on. After the meeting, they compliment you privately, act supportive, and tell people how great you are to work with. Think about it. This is not a conversation about truth. This is theater about ego and perception. The naive response? You confront them in the next meeting. You correct the record in front of everyone. You start an argument over who did what, who sent which email, who stayed late. Your attention locks on them. Your energy spikes. They stay calm, play innocent, and say, oh, I didn't mean it like that. Now you look emotional while they look reasonable. In trying to prove you are the real contributor, you become the problem. This is why the intelligent player does something different. You see, the Machiavellian response is not to fight for credit in public. It is to weaponize perception in private. In the room, you stay composed. You nod. You even praise them strategically. Yeah, Sarah's follow-up on that was helpful. You feed their ego a small, controlled win, while you quietly document every piece of work you do. You keep clean project files, time-stamped drafts, clear task lists, short summaries after calls. Not to whine later, but to control the narrative when it matters. The moment you stop chasing recognition and start managing evidence, the power balance shifts. Next, you control information. Instead of long emotional complaints, you send concise updates to your boss. Quick status on the rollout. I completed XYZ today. Next steps are A and B. You CC the right people. You attach the deck you built. No drama, no accusations. Over time, the pattern becomes obvious without a single public argument. Your value is visible in a way that cannot be twisted. Then you add dependence and calculated cruelty. You position yourself as the person who can execute the key pieces your saboteur cannot do alone. The complex analysis, the client call, the technical setup. They need you to look competent. You agree to help, you perform flawlessly, and you let them lean on you, while your fingerprints are on every critical step. Only after a clear pattern do you strike once, cleanly. One day they try to present your work as theirs again. This time, you set a firm boundary in front of the right eyes. Happy to walk everyone through the parts I handled here, especially the implementation details. Calm tone, precise language, no accusation, yet their ability to steal collapses. The real sign of intelligence is that you never raised your voice, you never chased their ego, you rearranged the battlefield. But what happens when the saboteur is not a peer, but your direct manager? Real-world scenario. The online troll swarm, but your direct manager? Hold that thought, because there is a battlefield where you face an even more chaotic enemy. Not one person, not a single saboteur, an entire swarm. You post one strong opinion online, and within minutes, your notifications turn into a digital mob. You know this scene. You make a clear statement. You bring logic, experience, maybe even data. At first, one or two people disagree. Then a troll arrives, then another. Suddenly, your replies are full of bad faith questions, sarcasm, and people who never read what you actually wrote. Think about it. Have you ever watched your phone light up and felt your chest tighten? Not because they are right, but because there are so many of them. This is where most intelligent people fall into the trap. You start replying to each comment. You explain, you clarify, you write long paragraphs trying to prove your good intentions to people who came to perform, not to understand. You see, your ego wants to clean your name in front of strangers. You want to correct every lie, every misquote, every foolish insult. The more you type, the more they twist. The more you explain, the more screenshots they farm for their audience. At that point, it is no longer a conversation. It is theater. You are not debating one person. You are feeding a crowd. This is why Machiavelli would tell you, stop fighting for truth. Start managing perception. The moment the swarm appears, your goal changes from convince them to signal strength to the silent observers who are watching. So you switch tactics. Instead of spraying attention everywhere, you select one or two semi-reasonable critics. Calm tone, short answers. You acknowledge their question, you respond with clear logic, and you ignore the bait. Everyone else, silence. No quote tweets. No defensive threads. You weaponize your attention. By refusing to engage the loudest, you starve their performance of oxygen. Then you apply a darker principle. Use enemies better than friends. You pin one particularly unhinged comment to the top. Caps lock, insults, wild accusations. Under it, you respond with composure, one or two sentences, no emotion, no name-calling. Now the contrast is public. Their hysteria, your control. Neutral people scrolling by instantly see who looks powerful and who looks weak. You did not win an argument. You framed a story. And then the hardest move, you go silent. You do not keep returning to set the record straight. You do not chase the 20 new replies demanding more of your energy. You have already signaled your stance and your calm. Every extra response now only fuels their ego and extends the show. So you walk away. You let the thread burn out without you. Time and boredom will expose the foolish ones more brutally than your words ever could. The real sign of intelligence is knowing when to stop speaking. But what happens when the swarm is not anonymous? When it is your own team quietly turning on you under a weak leader? Real-world scenario. The family drama merchant. When the weak leader is your boss, you can quit. When the weak leader is your parent, you are born into the battlefield. Think about it. You cannot resign from your own blood, which is exactly why Machiavellian strategy becomes so powerful here. Picture this. You have that one family member who lives off drama like oxygen. They misquote you to everyone else. They repeat half conversations as if they were the whole truth. They drag your name into every argument and then act shocked when there is conflict. You say one calm sentence at dinner, and 2 days later you hear a wild version of it through 3 different relatives. You try the naive response first. You get on long phone calls to defend yourself. You send paragraphs in the group chat to clear the air. You agree to emotional confrontations where voices rise, tears appear, and the original point disappears. You bring logic, they bring louder pain stories. You explain what you actually said, they twist your words again. Each conversation creates new material for the drama merchant to use later. This is why you feel exhausted and somehow more guilty after every attempt to fix things. Your attention is hijacked, your energy is drained. The real sign of intelligence is noticing that the argument is not about truth at all. It is about one person's ego needing constant fuel and constant chaos. The Machiavellian move is not another speech. It is silence and structure. You drastically reduce the information you share with this person. No more emotional play-by-plays, no more venting, no more detailed explanations they can weaponize. Your responses become short, neutral, boring. Yeah, it's fine. We'll see. I handled it. You see, you are still polite, but you give them nothing sharp to throw. At the same time, you apply divide and rule in an ethical way. You do not attack them in public. You do not campaign against them. Instead, you strengthen direct relationships with the calmer family members one-on-one. You call your brother directly. You visit your aunt alone. You let them experience you without the filter. Quietly, consistently, they see that your behavior does not match the stories. In this video, you are going to learn that this is how perception becomes your shield. When the drama merchant spreads the next exaggerated tale, there is resistance. People hesitate. They have their own data. Divide and rule here does not mean turning everyone against the troublemaker. It means preventing one foolish voice from controlling the entire narrative. Then you add a final layer, pride steering. The moment you must interact with the drama merchant, you do not accuse. You redirect their ego. You say things like, "You're usually so good at keeping the peace," or "You're one of the few people who can calm everyone down." Their pride wants that role. To protect their image as the mediator, they must behave less like an arsonist. Power, in a family system, is not winning the loudest argument. Power is quiet control over information, alliances, and ego. Now, let's begin to scale this same pattern from the dinner table to the workplace and see how elites use it on a much larger stage. Ethical lines. Using Machiavelli without becoming a monster. When people hear Machiavelli, they imagine a cartoon villain stroking a cat and planning betrayals. That fantasy is exactly why most intelligent people mishandle power. They either reject these ideas completely or they use them with zero restraint. Both paths are dangerous. You see, these strategies are dark, not theoretically, historically. The prince was literally banned by the church for centuries because Machiavelli describes power without moral makeup. He talks about weaponizing perception, calculated cruelty, and controlling information in a way that narcissists and sociopaths love. Think about it. Give an unstable ego these tools, and you do not get wisdom. You get a walking disaster. So let's draw a line. In this video, you are going to learn how elites manipulate foolish people, but the purpose is not to turn you into a smiling tyrant. The goal is self-protection and strategic clarity. You are learning how power really moves, so you stop walking into traps, stop bleeding attention and energy into rigged conversations, and stop being blindsided by people who already use these tactics on you. Here is your ethical test. Before you apply any strategy, ask, would I be comfortable if someone used this tactic on me in a similar situation? Not on your worst enemy, on you. If the honest answer is no, pause. Either adjust the move or don't play it. The moment you start creating rules that excuse your own behavior but condemn it in others, your logic has already been hijacked by ego. This is why consent and harm reduction matter. Use Machiavellian tools primarily to avoid being drained, manipulated, or sidelined by fools, not to dominate people who are acting in good faith. You disengage from a pointless argument instead of humiliating the other person. You control information to keep a toxic coworker from sabotaging you, not to sabotage an innocent colleague. Power here is defensive. You are building armor, not a weapon rack. Pattern interrupt. Imagine two people reading Machiavelli. One says, "How can I exploit everyone?" The other says, "How can I stop being exploited?" Same book, completely different outcome. The real sign of intelligence is not whether you know these tactics. It is whether you can see the game clearly and still choose restraint when you could win dirty. Reframe Machiavellianism as realism plus discipline. You stop expecting truth to win every argument. You stop assuming that polite people always act with pure motives. You study how perception, fear, and ego actually control groups. Then you decide where your own red lines are and you hold them. Because next, we are going straight into the 7 ruthless strategies themselves. And you will see exactly how tempting it is to cross that line when you realize how effective they are. The hidden audience, who you're really performing for. But here is what almost no one tells you. When those 7 ruthless strategies start to click in your mind, the real danger is that you begin obsessing over the fool in front of you. You forget the people who actually matter, the ones watching silently. In almost every conflict, there are 3 groups. There is you. There is the foolish person trying to drag you into an emotional argument. And then there is the hidden audience, the quiet observers who say nothing in the moment, but take mental notes that determine your future. Think about it. Have you ever replayed an argument later and realized the person you won against had zero power over your life, but someone watching did? Powerful people understand this instinctively. They care far more about the audience than the opponent. They know reputations are not built in the mind of the person yelling at you. Reputations are built in the minds of observers who are judging your control, your logic, and your emotional stability. The real sign of intelligence is not crushing your enemy in public. It is shaping what the room believes about you without needing to win the verbal fight. You see, every strategy you are about to learn is really a performance for that hidden audience. When you stay calm while someone else loses control, you are signaling to everyone watching that your ego is not fragile, that you are not easily provoked, that your attention is reserved for things that actually matter. You do not announce this. You demonstrate it. When you control information instead of oversharing, you are not punishing the fool. You are showing the observers that you understand leverage. You let others talk, reveal their emotions, expose their weak logic while you speak rarely and precisely. The moment you draw a clear boundary once, instead of arguing 10 times, you show every intelligent person in the room that you can enforce consequences without drama. Imagine this the next time someone baits you. You are on stage. They are the clown, doing tricks for applause. The real question is not, how do I prove them wrong? The real question is, what do the smart people in the back row see right now? Do they see you chasing validation from a loud fool? Or do they see you conserving energy, choosing your words like a surgeon chooses instruments? This is why long-term power rarely comes from the loudest person in the argument. Promotions, partnerships, opportunities, protection, these usually come from those silent observers who watched you under pressure and decided quietly, this one can be trusted with more. They are not impressed by volume. They are impressed by discipline. In this video, you are going to learn how Machiavelli turned this hidden audience into his true battlefield. Because once you understand how each ruthless strategy plays to the crowd you cannot see, you will also understand the one move that instantly separates you from every impulsive fool in the room. From reaction to design, architecting your power environment. Machiavelli's real genius was not winning arguments, it was arranging reality. He understood that if you design the stage, the actors do not matter as much. The loud, foolish ones can scream, but the script no longer gives them power. This is where your life turns from reaction to design. Up to now, you have probably treated drama as something that happens to you. Someone sends a passive-aggressive message, someone starts a pointless argument, and you respond. You see, that is how intelligent people lose power without noticing. They live inside environments built by other people's ego. Power architecture is the opposite. Power architecture means you arrange your world so fools have minimal access to your attention and almost zero ability to damage your outcomes. Think about it. If a person cannot reach you, cannot slow your work, and cannot influence the people who judge you, what can their noise really do? Start with the simplest layer, your digital environment. Your social feeds are not entertainment, they are mental conditioning. You scroll outrage, you become reactive. You scroll competence, you become strategic. Curate aggressively, mute the constant complainers, the manufactured outrage, the people who turn every conversation into an emotional performance. Follow calm, competent individuals who talk about systems, evidence, and results instead of gossip and endless opinion. Then look at your time. Unstructured time with high-drama people is like leaving gasoline next to a match. You do not need a fight scheduled. It will appear. Limit those open-ended hangouts, those late-night calls that always end in some new crisis. Replace them with structured interactions with people who value truth over ego, who can disagree without exploding, who leave you with more energy than they take. Now, redesign the way you work. Intelligent people do not rely on memory and vague agreements. They build systems, document decisions, put expectations in writing, use clear channels where information is visible instead of buried in private messages. The moment communication is documented, emotional outbursts lose leverage. There is a record. There is logic. There is less room for "I never said that" theatrics. This is why bureaucracies, for all their flaws, quietly protect power. Paper trails beat tantrums. Calm emails beat shouted accusations. When you create workflows where every important decision passes through written confirmation, the person who relies on volume and chaos suddenly looks exposed. Here's a pattern interrupt for your own life. Instead of asking, "How do I win the next argument?" ask, "How do I make sure this type of argument can barely exist?" That is the ultimate Machiavellian move. You are not winning battles. You are redesigning the battlefield so most battles never start. So choose one environment right now: work, online, or social. Where can you make a structural change that reduces your exposure to stupidity-driven drama? One new boundary, one new system, one new filter. The real sign of intelligence is not how well you fight chaos, but how rarely chaos can reach you. In the next section, you will see how to turn these quiet structures into visible authority that even your enemies are forced to respect. Recap: the 7 ruthless rules you're now playing by. You see, this is where everything you've learned snaps into one clear picture. You are not collecting clever tricks. You are rewriting the rules you live by. The real sign of intelligence is not how loudly you argue for the truth, but how quietly you arrange the board so foolish people never get to set the terms of the game. Now let's begin with the first rule you're now playing by. Weaponize perception. You appear virtuous while acting in your own interest. You dress your moves in kindness, fairness, or doing what's best for everyone. While your real goal is power and control, think about it. Most people announce their ego in every conversation. You will let them talk, look pure, and win in silence. Second, you control information. You feed illusions instead of raw truth to steer choices. You do not dump your full logic on people who cannot handle it. You give them a version of reality that keeps them calm, predictable, and useful. You protect your energy by deciding who deserves accuracy and who only needs a simple story that keeps them out of your way. Third, you divide and rule. You prevent alliances that can threaten you. You do not attack groups head-on. You let their egos collide. A subtle comparison here, a missing detail there, and suddenly the people who could unite against you are too busy doubting each other. This is why intelligent operators rarely face open rebellion. The rebellion never has time to form. Fourth, you use calculated cruelty. You strike once, hard, instead of being weak and nice forever. One decisive consequence, one clear boundary, ends more future arguments than 1,000 patient explanations. The moment you accept short-term discomfort, you buy long-term peace. Fifth, you leverage enemies. You let your enemies advertise you. Their obsession, their accusations, their emotional performances all shine more attention on you. You do not rush to defend every attack. You let time expose who was competent and who was bluffing, then speak when reality already supports you. Sixth, you engineer dependence. You never rely on gratitude. You build structures of need, systems, favors, access, information flows, designed so that people function better with you than without you. Gratitude fades. Dependence renews itself every day they wake up and realize they still need what you control. Seventh, you steer fools instead of arguing. You use their pride as your steering wheel. You guide their ego with praise, choices, and staged victories, so you never have to win a direct argument. Why wrestle with foolish logic when you can redirect it? Together, these rules protect you. Less wasted energy, fewer pointless debates, more respect from powerful observers, and a calmer inner life. Which rule will be your North Star this week? Choose one. Write it where you will see it every day. In the next section, you'll see how turning that one rule into visible behavior transforms you from a quiet strategist into someone whose authority cannot be ignored. Identity upgrade. From debater to strategist, that is the outer behavior. But underneath those rules, something deeper has to change. You cannot use Machiavellian strategy with the identity of a tired debater. The exhausted debater lives to prove a point. The strategist lives to protect power. You know the debater. You used to be that person. Someone is wrong on the internet, and your attention snaps like a magnet. You bring facts. They bring louder opinions. You write 3 paragraphs of logic. They reply with 1 sentence of ego. By midnight, you are drained, scrolling, replaying the argument in your head, and nothing in your actual life has improved. Now contrast that with the strategist. The strategist moves through the same world, surrounded by the same foolish noise, but behaves like an investor. Every potential argument is a deal on the table. Does this conversation increase your influence, your information, your options, or is it another emotional charity project for someone's fragile self-image? Think about it. You see, the strategist speaks less and observes more. They let people talk. They watch who interrupts, who gossips, who lies casually. They notice who stays calm under pressure and who needs to win every tiny disagreement. They let others reveal their character before committing a single unit of energy. This is why their few alliances are strong and their enemies are often exposed without a fight. This identity shift is not about becoming cold or uncaring. It is about caring selectively. You're not withdrawing love from the world. You are withdrawing fuel from pointless fires. The real sign of intelligence is not how passionately you argue the truth, but how precisely you choose where truth is worth defending, because it will actually change outcomes. Over the next few days, treat your life like an experiment. Count how many invitations to pointless conflict appear. A sarcastic comment, a baiting message, a relative who wants to relive the same political argument for the 10th time. The moment you feel the pull, pause, ask one silent question. What do I gain if I win this? Then enjoy the power of calmly declining. Here is the pattern interrupt. You do not have to announce your new identity. You do not need to say, I'm above this. You simply stop feeding foolishness with your attention. At first, people will push harder. They will raise their voice, escalate, accuse you of being afraid. Let them. Their performance exposes them more than any speech you could give. Your aspiration from now on is simple. Become the person in any room whose silence makes fools nervous. The one whose rare words carry disproportionate weight, because they are never thrown away on trivial battles. In this video, you are going to learn exactly how to turn that presence into concrete power plays, how to use enemies better than friends, how to weaponize perception, and how to guide outcomes without ever lowering yourself into the mud of endless argument. Final CTA, commit to the Machiavellian rule of silence. Now, let's begin the part that most people will skip, and the few who don't will quietly separate themselves from the crowd. You have heard the tactics. You have seen how silence bends foolish people out of shape, but none of it matters if you do not make one final decision about who you are going to be in every argument, every conflict, every conversation. The mantra is simple. The discipline is not. Silence is power. I don't argue with fools. Write it one more time in the comments if you are truly committed, not as a slogan, as a rule. The moment you type it, you are not talking to me. You are talking to your future self, the version of you who refuses to bleed energy proving truth to people who are allergic to logic. Think about it. Where did you waste power in the past month, arguing with someone who was never going to listen? Was it a relative at dinner, locked into their ego? Was it a stranger online, performing outrage for attention? Describe one of those situations in the comments. One scene where you now realize you were feeding a fire that only existed to burn your time and your control. You see, when you write it down, you turn regret into strategy. You are not confessing weakness. You are documenting the exact battlefield where you will no longer fight. Intelligent people study their own mistakes with the same cold eye they use on others. They remember the room, the tone, the look in the other person's eyes when truth stopped mattering and theater took over. Now take this further. Do not hoard this alone. Send this video to one intelligent friend who is always drained, always pulled into stupid conflicts, always trying to set people straight while their goals sit untouched. Frame it as a power upgrade, not entertainment. Tell them clearly, this is not about winning arguments. This is about never again letting foolish people rent space in your mind for free. When you feel that urge rising again, that itch to respond, to clap back, to correct every lie, come back to this. Rewatch strategy number 1 on weaponizing perception and strategy number 7 on outsmarting the foolish. Let those sections remind you that silence is not surrender. Silence is how you choose the battlefield, how you let time expose lies while you move on to more important decisions. Subscribing here is not about supporting a channel. It is about joining the small minority of people who quietly study power, while everyone else chases applause. No fanfare, no public declarations. The real sign of intelligence is who you learn from in private when no one is watching. Because in the next part, we are going to cross a line most creators are afraid to even mention. How to use these silent disciplines to do something far darker than simply avoiding fools. What Machiavelli would tell you about tomorrow. Now let's begin to bring this down from theory into your next 24 hours. Power is useless as a fantasy. It only matters in the way you move through a very ordinary day. So picture this. Tomorrow morning you wake up, grab your phone, and as you start scrolling, Machiavelli is walking beside you, not as a cartoon villain, as a quiet observer. He is watching where your attention goes, how easily strangers on a screen can hijack your energy with a headline, a comment, a foolish take that drags you into an argument you will never win because it has nothing to do with truth. Think about it. You see, he would not be impressed by how clever your replies are. He would be asking a harder question. Where are you giving away power for free? Every time you explain yourself to people who are not listening, every time you defend your logic to someone performing outrage for likes, every time you react instantly instead of choosing the field and timing of the conversation. Follow him into your day. You sit in a meeting, people talk in circles. One person interrupts, another complains, someone else turns a simple decision into a drama. You want to jump in and fix it. Machiavelli would tap the table and say, watch, who is signaling loyalty? Who is signaling ego? Who is quietly steering outcomes while others chase approval? The moment you see this, you realize how often you try to fix fools instead of steering them. At home, a family argument starts. Old patterns, old accusations. You usually explain, justify, defend. Tomorrow, run an experiment. For one day, in every conflict, say 50% less than you normally would. Half the words, half the explanations, no long speeches. Your job is to observe patterns and incentives. What do people really want? Attention, control, safety, revenge, validation. Notice what happens when you do not feed their ego with endless conversation. This is why tomorrow should not be a test of how sharp your arguments are. It should be a test of how disciplined your silence can be and how strategic your responses become. Can you pause 3 seconds before you answer? Can you ask one precise question instead of giving a 5-minute explanation? Can you walk away from a pointless argument without needing to have the last word? The real sign of intelligence is not that you never feel triggered, it is that you refuse to let the most foolish person in the room decide how you use your energy. When you taste what happens, less drama, more control, more information flowing toward you because you are not busy talking, it becomes very hard to go back to your old reactive self. And once you have felt that difference in a single day, you are ready for what comes next. Using the same silent discipline not only to protect your power, but to quietly bend entire situations in your favor. Closing frame, banned tactics in a world that rewards fools, that is the doorway. Once you can stay silent while everyone else performs their ego in public, you're already living in a different world than most people around you. Now step back for a second and look at what you have actually learned. These 7 strategies are banned, not because they fail, but because they reveal the truth about how power really moves underneath all the inspirational quotes, corporate values, and fake moral outrage. Think about it. If platforms truly wanted honesty, would they be terrified of a book like The Prince? A book that was literally banned by the church for centuries because it described power without the costume? You see, the irony is almost comical. The same platforms that preach kindness, openness, and community guidelines are run by boards, executives, and political consultants who quietly use Machiavellian tactics every single day. They weaponize perception, they control information, they divide and rule departments, they use enemies better than friends. Publicly, they say, be civil. Privately, they study how your attention and emotion can be harvested and steered. This is why your new discipline is dangerous. Most people will keep running into every argument, convinced that more logic will finally fix foolish behavior. You bring facts. They bring louder opinions. You stay rational. They get emotional. You walk away empty. They walk away feeling powerful because they drained your energy in front of an audience. The moment you stop playing that game, you stop being food. From now on, you have an edge that almost no one around you will understand. While they are busy proving they are right in every conversation, you are preserving control, building leverage, and letting time expose who is actually competent. While they chase likes, you quietly build outcomes. The real sign of intelligence is not how well you perform in an argument. It is how rarely you need one. So see yourself clearly. You are no longer part of the crowd that reacts to every provocation. You are part of a smaller, quieter counterculture of intelligent people who refuse to be emotionally farmed by idiots. You protect your attention. You choose your battles. You let foolish people reveal themselves without your help. Here is the final challenge. The next time a fool invites you into the arena, remember, your silence is not weakness. It is strategy. On screen, let that line sit in white text on a black background. Your silence is not weakness. It's strategy. Then let the screen fade to black before anyone has a chance to argue with it.